Very good evening to you. It's Thursday night at 6 o'clock. I know it's normally Friday at 7:10, but no, it's Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And you are tuned to the Football Pitch live on YouTube by myself, Cameron McDonald, regular co-host Dennis Newell, and guest tonight. We've got two in a row. We've managed to find two Spurs fans, one last week and one this week. The rest of them are hanging for ropes somewhere, I think, to be honest, but as I say, we've managed to find a couple of them anyway. We will be discussing Champions League. We'll obviously look back at the fireworks in Glasgow at the weekend. No, not at Central Station. Basically, the ones that took place at Ibrox at the weekend as we discussed the Scottish Cup. But go ahead, like, subscribe to the podcast. As I say, we are on YouTube every week, usually a Friday, but tonight, as I say, we're Thursday night. Like, subscribe, tell your pals. Subscriptions have went up a wee bit this week. I think we've got 4 or 5 new subscribers this week. Dennis, we are pushing on towards that century. But first of all, Dennis, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, Cammy. Thank you. And yourself?
Absolutely smashing. Obviously, having this on Thursday night this week, as I'm spending the weekend down south. Thankfully, not anywhere near London, so I'll not be seeing Spurs, although I'm probably actually, for what Burrows was saying last week, I'll be actually closer to where Spurs are getting beat this week than probably most folks, certainly than yourself. Steve, good evening. How are you?
Aidan, yeah, good, Cammy. All good, thank you.
Good, mate. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, Steve. Obviously, the place to start is probably in Madrid, the Umberto Metropolitano. Am I right with that one? The Wonderly Umberto, whatever the hell it's called anyway. Atletico Madrid Stadium. You don't be caring too much when it's getting cold, Steve. You could actually probably say it's in dire need of some gardening because the pitch looked god-awful on Tuesday night, but I don't think necessarily you can blame that for some of Igor Tudor's pre-match decisions, dropping a goalkeeper, bringing in a 21-year-old lad and subbing him, probably rightly so, after 15 minutes because he was having a howler. But Steve, I don't think Dennis has seen any of the highlights, so...
No. The highlights wouldn't take long for a Tottenham supporter anyway. I mean, we can start with the pitch because it's the smallest excuse. The pitch was terrible. And no Spurs players seem to be able to stay on their feet. That's not an excuse. I mean, when they're on their feet, they're absolute crap at the moment, so it doesn't make any difference, really. But the pitch was terrible. I mean, the pitch contributed to us conceding 4 goals in 20 minutes. The first one, Kinski slipped over. The second one, Kinski just miskicked it and slipped again. The third one, Van der Ven slipped over. The fourth goal was an absolute shocking dive from one of their players to get a free kick on the edge of the area, which they scored from. And we're 4-0 down straight away. I mean, we can't afford to give sides any starts at the moment, let alone 4-0. But that was mainly down to the pitch and the bad referee decision on the free kick. But I don't know. It shouldn't be happening. I mean, some of the Madrid players were slipping as well, but not as bad as the Tottenham players were. I mean, they had a chance to train on the pitch and practice on the pitch. They must have known what footwear to put on before they went out there. It's not really an excuse, is it? It's just terrible. But we were shocking. But the biggest shock of all was, I sat down to watch it, and the team came up. I don't know where this Igor Tudor's come from, apart from somewhere in the middle of Croatia. But this guy is absolutely clueless. I mean, we keep sacking managers that are decent managers just because they can't get the job done. Where we found this guy from? I mean, it seems a funny thing to say, but if it weren't for the fact it's absolutely ludicrous, I would say someone's paid this guy to come and absolutely jeopardise the club and get them relegated. Because honestly, what's going on is absolutely disgraceful. Is the team he picked on Tuesday night? I mean, Kinski's done well a few times I've seen him, but why throw him in an important Champions League game? His first Champions League game. There's nothing wrong with Vicario. the back four picks themselves. You've got Porro left, Jed Spence right, and Romero and Van der Ven in the centre. That should have been a back four, but he went with a back five. He put Dan. I've not got a problem with Dan. I think he's a decent old throwback, old type centre half. Heads everything, clears everything, doesn't make any mistakes. He's fine. But then he picked a really weird midfield. I can't quite work it out. He didn't pick Conor Gallagher. He didn't pick Javi Simons. He left both of them on the bench, which was really strange.
Could he pick Gallagher? Obviously, is Gallagher not featured for Madrid in the Champions League already this season? So is it possible?
He was on the bench, so I assume he was available to play.
Yeah, he came on just after half time, didn't he?
Yeah, and up front, I mean, we've got some terrible strikers. The only half decent one we got is Solanke. So he leaves Solanke on the bench and picks Karen Moani, Richarlison, and Matthias Tau. I mean, they're all average. I mean, Richarlison can be brilliant once or twice in 10 games, and the other 8 is non-existent. And Tau and Karen Moani are just not good enough to play in the Premier League. But the one half decent striker we got, he leaves him on the bench. So the whole midfield of the attack was a shocking decision. It's an absolutely shocking decision. And by half time, he'd practically brought the team that should have started onto the pitch when it was all too late. But I don't know. It just beggars belief. The guy looks absolutely clueless. I mean, obviously the players hate him. It's fairly obvious the players hate him because when they get substitutes, they just walk off and ignore him, and he ignores them. So there's no respect at all between him and the players. In fact, at one point they said that when he substituted Jed Spence in the second half, Jed Spence walked right past him, and then obviously to be sarcastic, he walked back, tapped the manager on the shoulder, and shook his hand. So. Honestly, it's just totally gone to pieces. The guy is absolutely clueless. Tactically, we look terrible. We didn't need to bring him in to look terrible. We looked terrible most of the season under who I think is a decent manager, Thomas Frank. We looked terrible under him, so we didn't need to make it work by bringing in some kind of ringer from Croatia to make sure we get relegated. But we'll definitely have the best pitch in the Championship. That's for sure. Best.
Yeah. When you go down,
you question why he's there, right? I mentioned this last week as well when I was having a go at it, and he said 12 clubs since 2013. Back to a couple of them twice. Maybe that'll happen with Tottenham, but 12 clubs since 2013. What does that tell you?
Yeah, he's always a temporary stopgap manager, isn't he?
Right. So,
to save the day, but he's not saving the day at Tottenham. He's making it worse.
So you look at stats, right? And this is where they all come from. It doesn't matter sometimes if players or managers are any good, you look at stats. Now, for someone that didn't see the game, I've dug up the stats. To be honest, Atletico weren't a million miles in front of you, yet they've managed to win 5-2.
When we went 4-0 down, we actually were probably slightly the better side. We had quite a few chances.
The goalkeeper saves 3. Right, then we'll go into the in-depth. Shots, 11 each. Shots in target, 7 for Atletico, 5 for you. No massive. Shots off target, 5 in you, 2 for them. I'm just looking through there, and relevant things are almost the same.
No, it's quite a close
game. When
game.
You look at it, there's very little difference in work rate. Distribution, 492. Total passes, 356. We taught them. Now, there is a gap there, but it's not massive.
It's not 3 goals, no. That was the problem. We gave them a 4-goal head start before we even started the game.
Yeah. But generally, you wouldn't think that there was that amount of goals in it. That's the thing I'm trying to say. When you look at stats nowadays, it can change the picture that you have of that game. If I don't hear it, the goalkeeper coming off in 70, I heard snippets, right? I just never get a chance to sit down and watch it all. But the thing is, when you hear snippets like that, you go, horrendous. If you don't hear it and you just tune in and you look at stats, what I'm doing is the manager really doing a bad job?
Yeah.
Nobody going to that because you're not a million miles away from Atletico. So this is the way it seems to work now, Steve. It's what you present in that CV somewhere along the line that people that are not knowledgeable enough in football go ahead and sign these people up. And it's sad because the game is battered by bad decisions nowadays. Battered.
Yeah. As I said, Spurs for what I saw, and again, I'm going by the 7-8 minutes of YouTube highlights that I watched. Steve, apologies, YouTube lowlights. The keeper had a howler. You know, there's no getting away from that. He slipped for the first one, as Steve says. For the third one, he squared the ball across his 6-yard box, straight to the Madrid.
Just miskicked it.
Alcatraz, or whatever his name is, Alcaraz. And he's basically, for 6 yards out, had to tap the ball in. You know, so it's right what Steve's saying. Spurs are the masters of their own downfall, and they are the ineptitude that they showed the other night. But by the way, I happen to think you've possibly got one of the best centre half pairings in the.
I do, yeah.
You know, with Romero, obviously Mickey Van de Ven. I think you do.
When they're not being sent off, they're great. Yeah, they're fine.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem with Romero. I think he's a balance player, to be honest.
Well, Van de Ven was sent off in the last league game, Dennis, and he was lucky not to go last night for a high tackle.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday night, sorry.
But again, I mean, on the sending off at the weekend, he was kind of left isolated. You know, that the guy get in behind him, and let's be fair, it was soft at best. You know, but I like Van de Ven. I definitely do. Last week he's on my fantasy team. I'm not remembering to take him out this week because he's going to be suspended. As I say, I do like him. Romero's not the worst. It is just the decision the other night to bring in a 21-year-old goalkeeper for his Champions League debut, as I say, in Madrid, was inexplicable. And then, Dennis, I know you've obviously managed, not quite at that level, but as I say, I know you've managed. I think on 15, 16 minutes, when you pull a keeper off who's had a howler, who's inconsolable because he knows he's fucked up big style, you know, and you sub that goalkeeper, you at least acknowledge that guy on the sidelines. You don't throw him a diffie, and that's what Tudor did as well. And Steve, you're going on about a lack of respect that the players are showing for the manager. Maybe that's why. You know, maybe stuff like that is why they've no respect for him. Because to me, the manager's sat on the sideline thinking, I've cocked up big style here. The least you can do is console the goalkeeper when he goes off.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And that's what he should have done. I mean, he just let the guy walk off down the tunnel practically in tears. 17 minutes into the game, 3-0 down, honestly.
There was another game last season, I think this happened, where somebody took off. It may have been in Scotland. And the manager ignored them. I'm not sure what game it was, so I'll no put somebody in it. But this has happened, I'm sure, up here, where I've seen somebody take off. Or maybe come back to me. And it was similar, but not just as bad as that. It was in the first half. And they hadn't completed the 45. I think the big question is, why did you start the boy? Now, it could be wrong footwear, but then again, you're a professional person, and goalkeepers are very, very thorough. Very thorough. They are more thorough than actually outfield players. I know that with experience. They get into every nut and bolt. So footwear would be a key part to that. Now, pitches do get heavily watered if it's not been raining, but as you rightly say, the pitch was atrocious anyway. So if it's down to him, then he can take the blame of that. But I have a question as to why you would start someone with that inexperience and then totally blank him that I haven't seen, but I can imagine what you're saying, and basically just throw him under the bus looking for him as the excuse as to why your team is not actually playing. And it would also maybe make me understand why the guy has had 12 clubs since 2013, because you will never have any longevity if you treat players like that. You have found that boy might be well liked in the dressing room, and the rest of the players are going, who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
And it just goes right through the whole team. And before you know where you are, you're up against it. You've lost the dressing room. And that's why I can see he's brought nothing to the party, right? It could look almost a bit like bullying with taking somebody off like as early as that. And the players nowadays don't put up with it. They just throw a towel in. No, why will I battle for him?
Yeah,
Romero's been looking for the substitution. I think there's an instance where Romero's looked at the sideline and basically he's saying, look, you need to get this guy off. Now, Romero's obviously your captain. And I think that's what he's done. He's on the pitch. He's there representing the manager on the park, whatever you want to say about a captain. I think he's the one that's turned around and says, listen, get this guy off because he's shot. And I mean, he basically was. He was definitely shot. The confidence has gone to hell, and he just did not look. He didn't look.
But then again, Cammy, you can't defend the fact. You can't defend the fact that he's actually started the game. If you are actually working closely with your captain, and you're thinking for a minute that you're going to bring in that rookie goalkeeper, you would speak with your captain and think, how do you find that? You think that'll work for us? You communicate. You don't just go blasé and say, there's the 11 on you go, and then the captain's actually trying to rectify it for you.
Maybe it does. Maybe
a shambles.
The respect's coming for.
Well, it smells of a bad appointment. I think it's probably the worst appointment that Tottenham's ever had.
It's lousy. I mean, I don't think I'm with Steve, and I disagree with Burrows for last week. I don't think Thomas Frank was a bad appointment. I think just the club's rotten for the core.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think Big Ange was a wrong appointment. He won your European trophy. Again, I think the club's rotten for the core. You've tried to clean it out in terms, obviously, Levy says he's had enough and he's leaving. You've still got the Lewis guys you've still got Joe Louis behind the scene, or Joe Lewis or whatever, pardon me, behind the scenes. So you've still got that going on. But I think the club needs a complete change of direction.
Yeah.
Change. I don't know what you do. It's a complete overhaul, top to bottom. You maybe get a chance to do that, Steve, in the Championship, because, as I say, the one thing you're in total agreement with Burrows is you're going down, and you'll be a Championship club next season financially. I don't know. How many of these players are going to want to stay?
I don't know. I don't know how many are under contract. How many have to, apparently it's written into their contract that if they get relegated, they have to take a 50% cut in salary. So
they're going from 200 grand a week to 100 grand a week.
Yeah. So
well, I still believe that they're not going to get relegated. I'm the only one.
Oh, they are. They are. Believe me, if you watch them week in, week out, there's not a single ever since November really. There's not a single team we've played in that league that haven't been better than us. And when you look at teams like even Wolves, Burnley, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, you watch their games and they're scrapping for the point.
Yeah.
You watch Tottenham, we're scrapping for absolutely nothing. We die. We look as if we don't care. And we're just not. I can't see where another win's coming from. We'll probably win at Anfield at the weekend, but
Steve, you know how you get that win. You bump them, and the players get a lift right away because the players are not responding to him. Right now, some of them can play, some of them are not good enough. But generally, if they play at the top of their game, they're better than third bottom. Right. So therefore, if you get rid of them, and you get somebody that's well respected in, even if it's in the coaching side, that's nothing connected to that.
You're looking at Sam Allardyce. You're looking at that kind of manager having to come in, rejuvenate Spurs, and lift that dressing room. You're maybe right with that one, Dennis.
But you'll get points on the board if you bump them.
When you look man for man at that squad, Spurs squad is head and shoulders above any of the other sides down at the foot of that table.
I agree. Even with all their injuries, they still shouldn't be in that position.
And that's the point I'm making. If you let the manager go, and you get someone in there that can gain that respect, either having been a leader at one point or is good at getting the players to play, you will pick up points because of the points you've both discussed in there. The team is playing badly because you've no leadership, and it's a shambles, and that's because at the helm, it's not been a good appointment for the club.
Yeah.
Now you get somebody in there that's got a bit of respect. Players will roll their sleeves up. They'll give you an extra 25%, and that will be enough to climb away from the bottom of the league. There's where I'm coming from. No keeping the same status quo, Steve. No, you don't keep the same. but you've got to change it.
No,
You've got to change it now.
They've got. I know he's only been in charge for 4 games, but it's fairly obvious he's actually, if it was at all possible, he's made them worse.
Yeah.
So they've got to do something. Just get rid of him. I don't know.
He's maybe come in with an iron fist and it's not worked. He's maybe come in and thought, you know what? I'll really drill this lot. And of course, he stand alone, and you don't get away with that nowadays with players.
Yeah, whatever he's done. Anyway, look at other Champions League results for English clubs in Europe this week. Obviously, Manchester City, the bad night.
Terrible.
English clubs, going down 3-0 last night at Real. I think Paris Saint-Germain gubbed Chelsea last night. Liverpool lost as well. Newcastle, good point for them, or good draw for them, at home to Barcelona. And Arsenal going to Germany. A late penalty. Kai Havertz scoring against his former side. I know how much you like Havertz, Dennis, and getting an equaliser. So no English clubs winning in the Champions League this week. I don't think we can say that very often, Dennis. So not necessarily a very good week for English clubs, guys.
I'll tell you something. I've seen the best game I've seen in probably about 3 years, or the best team. And if you get the chance, have a look at it. Real Madrid against Man City. Wow.
That first half is something.
Valverde, he scored 3 goals in the first half. Have a look at it.
I've seen them.
Sublime. And and I thought to myself, oh, there is football out there.
Yep.
And I thought, my word, that first half is as much entertained as I've been in years watching football. And then I can be cynical about this and say, you watch the old firm games and it's embarrassing. I know there's some golf and money and expensive players, etc. But it just looked like two different forms of football. And it was almost like the golf, I think, with low-level football with ladies who are still learning their game. But it almost looked a bit like that. The golf was massive. And I'll tell you what, Real Madrid, magnificent. And to be honest, Manchester United Manchester City, just never had an answer for them. Haaland was just non-event. I mean, he took him off, but the thing was, there was no balls going up to him. They were just like a lost cause.
I agree with you. I think Real Madrid the other night last night were exceptional. Valverde, three decent goals, 3 really decent goals. And fair play to Real Madrid. They just dismantled Manchester City within that half-hour spell. Completely and utterly destroyed them. Could have been another 2 or 3 second half as well, and killed the tie.
The thing is, if you've only watched the highlights, Cammy, then you've missed the real treat. The whole an hour of that game was played like that.
Yeah.
The first half just carried on, and they obviously eased off a little bit. But you never felt for a minute were Man City ever going to get back in that game, because the amount of times and the touches and the fluency of the passing was incredible. It really was. And it was a treat, and it was really good to sit and watch.
Steve, how many of the English sides are going through the next round? Because I see you're up against it a wee bit now, Faye, having 5 sides.
Yeah, I think probably just the arse. They're the only ones, I think.
How bad is it going to be this season? Arsenal winning the Premier League, and the same season you guys get relegated.
Well, it's just unthinkable, really. I think I'd rather get relegated than Arsenal win the league, but no, I don't know.
Did you honestly think it could get any worse than last year, Steve?
I didn't know. I mean, when we talk about these managers as well and how bad they've done at Tottenham, they all start well. I mean, Postecoglou, after 12 games of his first season, we was top of the league by 6 points.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I think we won 10 and drew 2 of our first 12 games, and then it all fell apart. Thomas Frank came along, and we played really well in the European Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain. We should have won that game.
Yeah,
it was 2-2 in the end. And then he won his first 2 games, home to Burnley and away to Man City. Well, we're off and running again. But for some reason, it just goes wrong. Whether it takes 2 games, 10 games, I don't know what it is. I mean, the injuries are one thing, but even with all those injuries, we should be 7th or 8th in the table with the players we've got left. There's still no excuse for where we are. And people keep saying to me, "Oh, you won't go down. You won't go." We will go down because we don't look like getting another point from anywhere where the other teams around us do. That's the problem. We just don't look like getting another point this season.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves and Burnley are away. You know, I think, irrespective of how much scrap they've got, I think the two of them are gone. It is just a matter of between yourselves, West Ham, Forest, Palace have had a couple of decent results. They've kind of almost turned things around. You know, so for my mind, it's between the three of you. And I think the other two have got managers who have had experience of keeping sides up who are struggling. You know, Pereira at Forest has obviously kept Wolves up last season. We know Nuno a couple of years ago kept Forest up, and then what he did last season was nothing short of remarkable what he did at the City Ground, you know. So I think from that point of view, they two, again, in terms of the managerial experience, they've got players who are obviously working for them. It took Nuno a wee bit of time to get his feet under the door and to get settled. But West Ham, with the exception obviously last week, you know, West Ham have looked as though they have managed to turn things around. And again, Pereira at Forest has managed to get a couple of results. You know, for my mind, unless Spurs do make that change off the field at the managerial level, I think you're right, Steve. I think they are down, you know. But just to finish off with the Champions League, Dennis, before we do come on to events at the weekend up here, you're talking about obviously the golfing clash between Real Madrid and what we've got at Ibrox and Parkhead. What about Bodo Glimt at the Norwegian champions? You know, obviously they won the last 2 or 3 games to qualify for the qualification round, knocked out into Milan, and get a 3-0 victory on Tuesday night over Sporting Lisbon to set themselves up in the box seat to go through to the next round. Now,
I watched them in the last round and they were magnificent.
Outstanding against Milan, but talk about how shit things are in Scotland, you know, and say, well, what can we compare? There's no money up here and whatever else. And you're not telling me that there's more money in Bodo or Glimt or whatever the hell they play in the Norwegian League than what we have in the SPL, that we cannot at least manage to come up with a side who can compete somewhere in some kind of European competition. Because at the moment, Scottish football is dead on its uppers. We are absolute garbage. But you've got the Norwegian champions in the shape of Bodo Glimt, who just look an absolute revelation in the Champions League.
It's a tough place to go, Bodo Glimt, as well. It's up in the Arctic Circle. It's freezing cold. Artificial pitch.
Yeah.
But Spurs won there last season in the semi-final of the Europa League.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you did well against them last year to get to the final, you know, so...
Yeah, but they do look a proper side, a proper sort of everyone pulls together type of side. They really do. They haven't got any superstars, but they look a really good side.
I don't know, that looks not bad. That boy, is it Ayer or Oyer or whatever his name is, he looks decent. He's going to go for big money, I'm quite sure, in the summer, you know, or transfer, whatever it is. Obviously, I know the Norwegian season's slightly different from anybody else's, but he looks decent. And I think when he scores, they don't get beat, you know. So I think
they've actually spent £32.8 million
on
incoming players. And incoming players, 32.8 million over the last few seasons.
Aye.
And that's of this month, right? Their expenditure is dwarfed by the roughly 80 million euros they have generated from player sales over the same period. Now, when you look at that, it's almost like the same. You could actually say it's nearly a similar business model that Celtic have got.
Yeah.
But look where Celtic are. They're a million miles away from it. Rangers are a little bit different because of the financial restraints they have had. They just seem to throw money at it to try and get a quick fix. Celtic are not looking for a quick fix. They're just looking for the survival of supporters being, what would you say, taken to task to get their money off them. When I've rattled my gums big time about this, that potentially between the Champions League where they lost 40 million, right? And then you look at a player, they could have actually got another 25 million with selling a player to Nottingham Forest, and they didn't take it. So there's 65 million. If they have got knowledge, they should have had, and they should have been moving on to spend that in players the way the team that we're talking about has just done. It's really poor, and I have rants about this nearly every week because of the way that the clubs are run. But the people that are being starved of this are the hard-working supporters who are giving them good money. And the bottom line is, you can see what it's ending up with, the frustrations that we've seen at the weekend. And that's truly what that is. It's frustration because the product in the park is dire, right? And what's happening is the directors are sitting there. They're not having a laugh, but the bottom line is they ain't doing nothing to generate, what would you say, interest in players coming here that are going to actually be better than hanging on to a player like Ingles, who cost them 11 million, were offered 25 million and decided not to take it. Now, the boy's injured, but has he made a big dent in Scottish football since he's came here by saying, by the way, he's a player worth keeping? Not in my eyes. I'm sorry, but that's only my opinion. I would have bitten somebody's arm off for 25 million because they will never be offered that again for him.
If you can get 11 million back on Ingles, you've done well, So yes, to get double that and some, is it just shows you that the money that's obviously generated down south, But as I say, many a time we keep saying about how Scottish football compares with down south or whatever else. Let's look at Norway, And as I say,
they can't. If you just go back to Bodo Glimt, their squad cost them in February 1.7 million euros.
Yeah. They strengthened to the tune of 2 million.
Huh?
Or 1.5 million, actually,
But wait a minute. They're a success. There's no many of them going about. And it's a bit frustrating when you see a team that has punched above their weight really, really well. And they were outstanding in their last ties. And it's great. But that momentum is created because they've been doing well. They play better. And Rangers actually had that wee run for a spell as well, where they're playing a bit better. And what happens on the back of that is you start picking up results. And that is no different from what they've done in Europe.
Yeah.
But they're refreshing. It was good to see. It's another success story.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And again, Steve, a success story without throwing multiple millions at it. There's no 65 million on a Dominic Solanke there.
65 for Solanke, 55 for Simons, God knows how much for Polinia, and let's not play any of them.
So Solanke was injured for a period, but has he not been pushing and working hard for a place in there that would make... I did think he was going to be a good asset to Tottenham when they signed him, because he's got the stature and the requirements that you need, but he never seems to have set the hell on fire. What's behind that, Steve? Is this bad management?
I don't know. Solanke's never going. He came to fill the boots of Harry Kane, and no one was ever going to do that.
No, that's true.
So he was on a loser before he started, but I think he's decent. I don't think he's a well-beaten Solanke. He's not getting in the England team or anything like that. So
no.
Is the loss of Kane and Son a key factor on why this has all went pear-shaped?
Yeah, I think it all went pear-shaped. They only ever make panic buys, but they won't spend 100, 150 million on someone really good. They'll spend 40, 50 million pounds on someone that's average.
And then they'll give them wages.
Then pay them a fortune, and then don't play them anyway. So
yeah,
the whole thing is just ridiculous at the moment. There, it's just terrible. I mean, what made them buy Matthias Tell or Kolo Muani? I think Muani's still on loan, but
look, you had Tell on loan for 6 months as well.
Yeah, we had Tell on loan for 6 months, and we had the chance to ship him back. I mean, what they saw in him, I didn't see it anyway. I don't know what they saw in him, decided to sign him, but I never saw it.
Is it not the fact that Arsenal wanted him that you thought, no, he's not? You're not getting him. Arsenal would have made a player out of him.
If Arsenal wanted him, it was a poker bluff. They was bluffing to make us buy him. I don't think they wanted him. I mean, that was Eze, wasn't it? We should have signed Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace, but
again, you wouldn't pay the wages, and That's the thing, you know. And then you get 6 weeks trying to negotiate a deal. Don't pay the wages. His agent contacts Arsenal within 24 hours.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't think he ever wanted to sign for Tottenham. Apparently, he was an Arsenal supporter from boyhood. Yeah. And I think that he pushed that deal with Arsenal. I mean, he never wanted to come to Tottenham. I mean, if you don't want to come and play for us, fine. When I found that, I wasn't that bothered we didn't sign him. He didn't want to play for us anyway, so there's no point signing someone who doesn't want to play for us. And we got a squad of 15 that don't want to play for us. We don't need any more.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Well, you could have had Havertz instead of Solanke.
Havertz, or you could have swapped him. Well, Havertz.
Nobody's dipped their toe in that one.
That's the only thing Arsenal haven't got, isn't it? I don't start talking about Arsenal. That's all I need. But the only thing they haven't got is a decent striker, isn't it? It's weird.
Yeah.
Well,
he seems to be surviving as well. Trossard as well. I've never rated him when he was at Brighton, and he's a right good move. Yeah. You know, so but they do well with their international team, and they're doing fairly well with Arsenal. So the bottom line is, I can't be right if they're doing well.
Arsenal, you know, they definitely have, and I like the boy they brought in the summer. You know, the striker they brought in the summer. I think he'll the Polish boy whose name escapes me just now, but I think he'll be decent once. He's scored a few. Still not set the header on fire, but as I say, I think he'll take a season or two to adapt, and he'll do well because he's big, strong, physical, and knows where the goal is. You know, so as I said, just his name bloody escapes me, so apologies on that. But anyway, bringing it back, let's go for the ridiculous to the sublime, or the sublime to the ridiculous. Glasgow at the weekend. We obviously had the Rangers Celtic game in the afternoon. I joked earlier on about the fireworks in Glasgow. Unfortunately, obviously, we had the scenes in the city centre at the weekend as well with that horrific fire. Thankfully, nobody injured, nobody hurt. Although millions and millions of pounds worth of damage obviously caused whatever happened, you know. Christ knows. Tell me how a vape shop can blow up. But anyway, that's by the by, you know, and have 4 massive explosions that you actually demolish the side of a building. Mm-hmm. That's for another day, probably another podcast. But we did have the situation in Glasgow at Ibrox Park as well on Sunday afternoon. A game which just didn't come alight, you know. It just did not live up to any kind of the hype that we might have thought we were going to get once we saw how decent the league game was, or how the league game was. Rangers should have had enough, I think, to run out easy winners on that game. They just couldn't create a chance, let's be fair. The boy up front, he has to be the worst football player I have ever seen in my life. He makes Havertz look like an international. You know, he is freaking horrendous.
As much as I have a go at Havertz, Cammy, I would never even say his name in the same breath as we are talking about, because it's embarrassing. And you finish your rant before I have a dig at him, because he's making major money.
8 million quid.
Yeah,
for a guy who,
Steve's sitting there wondering who we're talking about.
You haven't mentioned the name yet.
Yeah, Sharmiti was signed from Everton
for 8 million.
£8 million, and he hadn't scored a goal in 2.5 years.
I've never heard of him.
No.
Yeah, sure.
He wasn't scoring goals. Probably wasn't playing much either. So Rangers sign him for that astronomical fee. Remember, that's really big money up here, Steve.
I mean, £8 million for a Premier League player, that's a 15-year-old boy that cleans the boots.
I know that, but up here, that's the top end. So they spend that money on him, which they can ill afford to begin with at that value, and it just looks out of sorts. He's got stature, he's got a lot about him, and that's the end of it. If you look at it since he's came, was it in start of the season?
Start of the season.
And he scored 8 goals. And as I said last week, that's £1 million per goal. That's his contribution. On Sunday. Yeah.
By the way,
I've stole your fire with this game, Cammy. But basically, the thing is, he had 2 glaring chances. I mean, glaring, that you or I or any 3 of us would have made a better job of it. And that would have really put Rangers well ahead, because Celtic had nothing in return. but they were glaring chances.
Oh,
glaring.
So chances.
When you look at Cammy's probably right. Maybe there's an extreme there to say it's the worst centre forward you've ever seen. You never watched me, so I don't know how you can say that. But the thing is,
yeah, I'll give him that.
Sorry,
I don't think he's had an air shot yet, you know. So
no,
in front of Craig Brown. So we'll maybe give him that one.
But
honestly, Steve, he scored he scored an absolute worldie a fortnight ago against Celtic. You know, an overhead kick.
Yes.
Christ knows how he done it. You know, well, obviously we saw how he done it, but goodness knows even the confidence. But I think, other than that, his positional sense is horrendous. He can't track back. His touch is god awful. There's nothing this guy can say to justify an £8 million price tag. And for £8 million coming to Scottish football, he should have bagged 25, 30 goals by now. You know, he's got 8, 2 of which are hat-tricks. So he's actually only scored in 3 games, I think. You know,
I think he two against Celtic.
And 3.
Yeah, 3. He said 3 and 2. I think
that's what I'm saying. He scored 5 of his 8 goals against Celtic.
Yeah,
and I think the other one was a hat trick. I know, was it? No. So as I say, he's looked. He has god awful. And as I say, the chances at the weekend there to all Rangers had to do was score once. If Rangers had scored 1 goal, they'd have won that game because Celtic just weren't creating anything. Rangers, who were almost at full strength, were up against a Celtic side who. But by the way, let's be fair, Dennis. Trusty looked as if he had a blinder on Sunday.
Do you know why? Do you know why?
Because he was up against Rangers.
You know why? No, because he didn't have Scales next to him. Scales was shoved away out in the left channel, creating his normal bomb scare passes. I'd hate to play in front of that guy. He gives you a ball when he's under pressure and it's a broken leg ball. That's what it's classed as. And he just backs away. And I'm thinking, Biggie, I wouldn't play with you like that. I'd have you told, do not leave a ball short for me or make the passes as bad as you are. But he played left midfield and they get exposed up that channel big time. But Trusty, as you rightly say, didn't have to play with them. And it was night and day. The two central defenders that come in to replace Scales was good. You hear some people saying Scales is playing well. Scales is not. I have a bad habit of watching every nut and bolt that goes with that guy. And I don't think he is anywhere near the level it should have a green and white strip on. But I'm not the manager. The manager obviously rates him so much so he made him captain, which is even worse. So the bottom line is Trusty did have a great game. And I was pleased for the guy because he looks a big, honest, hard-working guy. He's been a bit raw recently when he says a couple of sendings off. But certainly he showed up on Sunday. There's no doubt about it.
On Sunday. Yeah, listen, what game was Neil Lennon watching on Sunday? You know, the way he was talking about, you think it was Real Madrid against Man City. He was watching it the weekend.
I did think that, yeah.
Awful. It was dire. You know, it really was.
The thing is, Cammy, we're
in the season, in the league game, but it was bloody awful.
But what we're doing here is we're giving our opinion clearly, right?
Yeah.
You won't get any pundits, any of them, giving out the pure thoughts. If I met some of them tomorrow, and I've met a few of them after matches, and it's the exact same thing I'm saying about it, except they're not going to say it in there. We do here in this small thing that we have, and we're only hearing what a lot of other people would like to say. They don't say it because they're getting paid and they have to be conservative about their opinion. They're not going to give you exactly what their thoughts are. They'll be sitting there going, my word, that's dire. Well, you can't say that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the one person that actually has a go at Shermiti is Ali McCoist when he's done the commentary. Not too aggressive to the way that we have, but at the same time, it's like, why is he not there? Why does he not get here? And I said this to you, I think, off air. Why don't they get McCoist in, who was magnificent at finishing exactly what Rangers are needing? Pull the boy aside because he's only in his 20s, early 20s, and work well for a couple of hours a day. That would work Rangers a treat. And that would be common sense because this boy is never, ever going to improve in his own the way he is at that club now.
Yeah, very, very poor. Very poor. Anyway, other results of the weekend. Obviously, it finished 0-0 each after extra time. Celtic ran out victors on penalties and going into the next round. victories for Falkirk on Friday night. Again, what a season. John McGlynn's having a job and a half there.
Yes.
Fairland, we called that right last week, Dennis. Not to the extent. Aberdeen just did not turn up. Then Fairland running out 3-0 victors through to the semi-final, where I think they play Falkirk, and the other one's St Mirren against Celtic, isn't it? Who ran out victors against Partick Thistle on Sunday night. So we've got St Mirren who can do the cup double. We've got Celtic who are in with a shout at doing the league and cup double. Falkirk who are absolutely outstanding, having a season and a half, and Dunfermline who you would say are there to make up the numbers, but that's going to be a Fife Central derby. You know, obviously there's no love lost between Falkirk and Dunfermline. I wouldn't write off Dunfermline in that one either, you know, but that's as good as we're going to get in the semi-finals. You know, Falkirk and Dunfermline, it's not going to sell out Hampden, unfortunately. Obviously, we'll have the Celtic St Mirren game as well, and the winner of that one, you'd have to say, would be the favourites. That's if Stephen Robinson is at St Mirren, because he's obviously been linked with Aberdeen, and I think Aberdeen have been given permission to talk to him.
No, he's now Aberdeen's manager.
Is he? Right, okay, fair enough. Shows what I know.
So he's now gone from St Mirren, and I think that's a good move for him, because you know at the start of the season I was tipping him to get the Celtic or Rangers job. Yeah. But unfortunately, he's sitting in the toilet. Yeah, but the thing I find quite amusing, one of the worst players at Aberdeen he had at St Mirren is Big Lasagna up front.
Aye.
Could he turn him into a player that I actually don't believe is a player? You know? So this bit's another one. He's going to have a major problem up there at Aberdeen, because the two of them are useless. I'll say that right now. They are not looking as if they are Premier League players, and they get turned over big time with Dunfermline. And it was quite embarrassing for a club of that stature. And I think the 3,000 come down from Aberdeen to watch that game. So, you know, he's got a job in his hands, but I don't think you can really blame him if Aberdeen really struggle for the remainder of the season with the squad they've got. But I think he merits a good chance, because he's a good manager. And I think that's probably one of the next biggest clubs he could have gone to, because Hearts is all tied up. Hibs, is that a better move? I don't think so. Aberdeen's a big club, and I hope he does well there, because I like him as a manager. I think he's got a bit about him.
Yeah, indeed. But that's pretty much almost us. Looking at fixtures this weekend, we'll get Championship football tomorrow night, Steve. I was going to say we'll bring it back down south, but it's Wrexham against Swansea, so it's obviously it's a wee bit of Welsh football tomorrow night between Wrexham and Swansea. That'll be a cracker. Saturday.
It'll be a cracker next season when we're playing them.
That's well, listen, you and Wrexham might well be swapping places. I know Coventry, you know, but. I think you might as well get yourself ready for Championship football, because I'm in agreement with you. I think you're down.
There's no improvement coming from anywhere. Is that I can't see any way it'll improve, and I can't see him picking up a point. They just don't look like picking up a point.
Don't look like it at all. You know, You're right. Premier League fixtures on Sunday. You've got Burnley against Bournemouth, Sunderland, the revelations of the season, against Brighton and Hove Albion. 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. Sorry, I'm saying Sunday. On Saturday, these are, sorry. Saturday night, we've got Arsenal against Everton, 5:30, live on Sky Sports. Chelsea against Newcastle, 5:30, live on Sky Sports. And we also have West Ham against Manchester City. Championship football sees Coventry City, who I think will be definitely coming up. Frank Lampard's done a cracking job there. They're facing Southampton. And a kind of top of the table battle, and you've got Middlesbrough sitting in second. They're taking on Bristol City. Other games pretty much a bit of an entity there in the Championship. When we move into Premiership, Aberdeen, Robinson's first game is against Falkirk. Hibs against Livingston. The big one, Saturday afternoon, Celtic against Motherwell. Motherwell obviously losing last week in the league. First defeat in Christ knows how long, but Celtic against Motherwell. And Kilmarnock against Hearts. Championship football, Airdrie against Arbroath, Dunfermline against Raith Rovers, Queen's Park against Ayr United, and St Johnstone taking on Ross County. And we move into League One, Hamilton Queen of the South, Cali Thistle and Cove Rangers, Kelty Hearts against East Fife Derby, Peterhead against Steny, Montrose against Alloa. And League Two, to finish off the games on Saturday, it's Annan against Edinburgh City, Elgin City against Dumbarton, second against third, see Spartans taking on Clyde, Stirling Albion taking on Forfar, and Stranraer taking on East Kilbride in the a game up there on.
Can I just before you
going with that one.
Yeah, just before you finish off in their results, I had a look at some of the fixtures this week.
Yeah,
and I thought, Steve, when you get to the bottom of our football, they're all part-time, right? When you look at League Two, they're part-time players, even some non-league teams that have got full-time players. But here, the lower league teams, Steve, are more self-sufficient. So every penny's a prisoner. So the part-time teams in the Scottish Second Division, you should not have Annan Athletic, which is near the borders, not a million miles away from your headquarters at work, playing Elgin City with a 7:45 kickoff. I'm sure that was the time.
I never noticed that.
What is that about?
I never noticed the kick-off time there.
Yep. 7:45.
When's that?
Sorry?
That was
week, yeah. No, that was Tuesday. And I believe it or not, beat Elgin 2-1.
Aye.
Who in this planet sits down and allows that to happen? Because I would imagine you ain't going for Annan all the way up to Elgin and not staying overnight, and that's an expensive trip. Because guys will be compensated for the time off work if their company won't give them it. And then you've got the hotel and your food. And I just think some of these people in the ivory towers that allow these fixtures to go ahead, well, it could be next MPs for the country for all you know. But absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that when I seen that. I thought I need to bring that up because that was just horrendous.
That midweek game. Absolutely. Totally mental. You know, I get obviously it was probably lost by the weather, or even
right. But Cammy, you've still got it 2 weeks before that. Elgin come all the way down to Edinburgh for a game on the Tuesday night. So, you know, it's not just one game. If you start to go right through the league, we've mentioned this early on in the season about teams from one end of the country going to another. And they talk about how to improve things. That's not improving things. That's just battering another team.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, that was a wee rant on that.
No, you're right. To round off the fixtures and give Steve a chance to obviously voice some opinion on English football again. Sunday sees 4 games in the Premier League down south. Crystal Palace against Leeds United. Manchester City taking on Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest against Fulham. That should be pivotal. And then you've got a 4:30 kickoff. I'm assuming the telly folk thought this was actually going to be a competitive game. You've got Liverpool against Spurs, 4:30 on.
Yeah, should be a good game if we can keep them down to 12. It might be a good
figures you've done well, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Igor Tudor's looking for you to play on goals on Sunday, Steve.
It could be. I don't know whether he's a hacked off.
I think that might be the 17 minutes before he's hauled off.
It took me 17 minutes to get on there, Dennis.
Aye, that's true. Aye. Warm up, Steve. You're coming off. Aye.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't mention earlier on, but this whole relegation battle centres around the West Ham game about 5 or 6 games ago.
Yeah.
We was at home to West Ham, and we dominated the game. It was 1-1, and they scored in injury time. So that was a 6-point swing. If it wasn't for that game, we'd still be like 7+ points clear of relegation. It wouldn't matter. That was the pivotal game.
Yeah, things went belly up from then.
Yeah,
I think West Ham probably deserved their 1-0 half-time lead right enough, but you guys after the break, certainly came back into the game, and just blew it in that injury time, as you say, for the Hammers to get that victory.
Anyway, we'll probably beat Liverpool on Sunday. So.
Yeah, listen,
at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points, and you'll take 3 points against Liverpool.
The problem you've got, I think, is what I'm saying. You need changes to get the performance out of the players. You won't get the performance under the same regime when you're seeing the reactions of players, etc., when your goalkeeper's taking off as early as that. So,
it's
it needs a change. Yeah,
it's shocking.
Yeah, but to be allowed to continue, I think he's got a press meeting tomorrow. It'll be interesting to try and hold on to the actual words that the manager's saying. But you can't throw players under the bus. The bottom line is you need to be throwing yourself under the bus.
Yeah. Which he did do in terms of throwing the young keeper under the bus. He definitely did. But listen, guys, that's us for the Thursday night. Thank you very, very much to you both for changing your schedules to accommodate this on a Thursday. As I say, it'd be good to see Scott Hartley tomorrow night, spending the weekend with him and his lovely wife. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. So as I say, thanks very much to making the changes. Thanks very much to you guys for listening. As I said before at the start of the show, go ahead, like, subscribe. Add on to our subscriber numbers. We're chasing that century before the end of the season, and we're definitely closing in on it. So as I say, go ahead, like, subscribe to the podcast, tell your pals, tell your budgie, get your granny to subscribe, get your Tottenham goalkeeper to subscribe as well, because he's got nothing else to do. He's certainly not taking any shots. He could be sitting there with his mobile phone watching us. But as I say, thanks very much. Remember, everything is always happening in the pitch. Good night.